G, and this is the last session of this conference. We have two wonderful presenters, and each of these presentations are half an hour long. And the first presentation is between 3:15 and 3:45. What we'll do is we'll give the presenter 20 minutes time to present. After that, there'll be a 10 minutes Q&A session, and then followed by the second presenter. So our first presenter today is going to be talking about from satisfaction to impact, evolving evaluation practices in executive education at the Ivey Academy. And we have Rosa Cendros from the Ivey Academy and Ivey Business School, London, Ontario, Canada. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you all lovely people for being here on the very last session of the conference. I don't have a topic on Gen AI or anything like that. Instead, I'm talking about that very elusive E in the ADDIE model. When instructional designers get to the topic or to the point of evaluation, we're already too tired from all the other letters of the process to really focus and think about how we evaluate our programs and what are those metrics or those things that will tell us about our program success. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we are approaching evaluation at the Ivey Academy, things that we changed from how they were before, and what can you all learn a little bit about evaluation. So these are the contents of the presentation. I'll talk a little bit about the context and what is the Ivey Academy and what is executive education. And I'll talk about the challenge that we faced, the change that we made, and what results we had. And I'll talk a little bit about the way forward. For you, and I always like to give my students, I also teach at the University of Toronto, so I always give them something to focus on or something to think about during the presentation. So for you, or what you can take away would be, what evaluation practices could you adopt or improve in what you already do as learning designers or as instructors? So first, I'll talk a bit about the context and where I'm coming from. It's the Ivey Academy. We are the executive education arm of Ivey Business School in Canada. We're rated as the leaders in companies in the corporate world. From emerging leaders all the way through the C-suite, we work with leaders to help them transform their business, to help them grow in general. And one of the things that we're committed to is to have meaningful and lasting behavior transformation. And you can imagine that when you propose a goal like that and you put a goal like that in your North Star or what you do, then it becomes an issue. How do you measure that, or how do you know that you're going in the right direction to get meaningful and lasting behavior transformation? So that's where my job comes in. I'm the learning experience designer at the Ivey Academy, and a lot of the work that I do, because they are already so great at learning and the practice of it, a lot of the work that I do has been to prove that this way of teaching or their designs have had some long-lasting impact in our companies. So let's talk a little bit about the prevailing practice, or how things were before. And who of you is familiar with the Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of evaluation? I have some people here and over there not so familiar. So the 4 levels of evaluation, what tells us is it's a model by Don Kirkpatrick, and it's been around for a long time, since the 1950s. He basically proposes to evaluate our learning efforts in 4 levels. The first one, reactions, or whether learners liked the training, if they enjoyed it. Learning is something that we as designers are thinking about all the time, is how am I going to assess that the learner actually is taking something away from the training. Then behavior becomes how much of this learning is being transferred in the work, and the results is the so what. So they're applying it, and what happened in the organization. What did they improve? What are the results that are observed? So what is happening, or the problem specifically in executive education, the education of leaders, is that it has tended to stay around the reaction and learning levels. In the research, what we have noticed is that most companies are evaluating just on a regular basis, just at the reaction and learning levels. In fact, it's around 81% that do it regularly at those two levels, and only 40% at the behavior and results. So why is that? Can you think of reasons why, when we're talking about leaders and the work that leaders do, why is it a challenge to go all the way to behavior and results?
It takes time, it takes money.
Takes time, takes money.
Sometimes the results of leadership are pretty intangible, and they can, to an outside audience, look really anecdotal.
Exactly. Yeah. We're talking about, you wanted to say something as well?
Sometimes it's difficult to get that information too. There may be results, there may be behavior change, but it's not always, as she mentioned, anecdotal. So it's not quantitative. It's not easy to collect.
Exactly. Yeah. All very good reasons. It's not easy. It takes a lot of resources if you want to look at it, and it's also very intangible. Like in our roles, we can be all day doing all what we call the hard skills, what has to do with learning design and what it has to do. But if we are having to have a difficult conversation with a colleague, who doesn't even want to measure that? Or who is going to want to measure if you do it well in that? Well, that's kind of the role of the leaders, and the kind of, I would say, not well named soft skills, because they are really hard to do. They are very difficult to measure, not observable. And sometimes it doesn't paint the picture of success that we want to paint. But when we stay in the satisfaction level or in the reaction level, we are missing an opportunity to see what is that transformative impact of executive education. We are not looking, there is an impact. It's very hard to measure and it's very hard to do, but if we don't do that, or if we don't measure the results, it becomes a problem. It becomes something that we are quite not grasping. So some of the risks will be, if we stay in that reaction and learning levels, is that we would have surface level insights, lack of long-term perspective, because the goals of the organization and what happens with the learning after the training are getting lost. And there's a misalignment with the strategic objectives of the organization. We don't know if what they hired us to do is actually happening in the workspace. There's an inadequate measurement of the real world impact. Also a potential for complacency. Like the Ivey Academy was only measuring at the reaction level, and always getting like the 6.5 to 7 results. We measure on a scale from 1 to 7, always getting all those good results. And staff and faculty were like, well, my job is done. This is it. How else can I improve if I'm already getting that, the holy grail of the grade, a grade impact measurement. So it makes it really hard to improve from there when your staff and when your faculty gets into that place of, this is it, I'm done. And then, of course, overemphasis on pleasure over utility. And it's tricky in executive education because we want that the executives that come to like our retreat, that they are very happy with the experience, that they're happy with the food, the accommodation, the sandwiches are great, and they were well treated. But there is the risk of staying there and not seeing, okay, but what was the goal of the training that you wanted to achieve, and did you actually get there? So the challenge was things that we wanted to do or things that we needed were the validation of learning outcomes. We wanted to know if our programs, specifically our open enrollment programs, because all the evaluation ideas started in open enrollment. That means it's a program where anybody can enroll, and we have participants from different companies coming in together, much like this group. Imagine that we wanted to measure the impact of this conference when each of you goes to a different company or to a different place, and you are trying to do things that may be very different among us. So that was the challenge for us. In custom programs, it's more limited because you have the goals of the organization and it becomes easier to measure. But we wanted to validate that what we were doing in open enrollment specifically were the correct learning outcomes, that it's what employers want, that it's what our participants need. We wanted to have an alignment with the organizational goals, both of our clients and both our own as well, because this is one of our, measuring impact is one of our strategic priorities. And facilitating personal and professional growth. If participants know what their expected outcomes are and where they want to go, it facilitates that. Driving our continuous improvement, like I said before, having somewhere, some information to improve. Demonstrating social and economic contributions and enhancing the credibility and reputation. It comes to the stories that we want to tell about the Ivey Academy, about how great our programs are. If we don't have any data about the impact in the organization, how can we tell these stories and how can we tell this is how great we are? So those are the reasons why we wanted that. And when we came together and started to think about how to change the evaluation practices, this was kind of our North Star. Like, we didn't want to miss our sight of these things that were already working really well. That we didn't want to just judge success or failure, that it would be easy to have like some sort of metric or meme that would tell us, oh, this was great, this wasn't, and then it gets discarded, is what it was happening. But we really wanted to have more information for improvement, without judging if a number is the correct number. And taking an ungraded approach. It was a pleasure for me to hear about ungrading earlier on, because it's a principle that we wanted us to be guided by. None of our programs have grades, and we didn't want to go there when measuring learning. So that was something that was very important for us. We wanted to equally consider qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, we used to get some comments and then they were discarded. If there were no red flags, they were discarded. Now it's part of our data and of what we did. And then we wanted that the overarching measure of success of whether we did good or not was that impact and the stories that we could tell about impact. And we prioritize assessments that were integrated. So at no point our participants go and take a test or take a quiz. Everything is integrated in the programs. We do a lot of action learning projects. We do things that are more seamless in the activities. They never know that they are being, in a way, assessed or measured in their learning trajectory. And then evaluated metrics should avoid biases wherever possible, because one thing that we were noticing, we had a question, for example, to grade our faculty. So participants would grade faculty members, and sometimes when you have 4 or 5, because they co-teach, you couldn't help but compare. So why did this person get a 7 and this person got a 6? And it introduced bias in the system, because who do you think were getting not the very high scores? It was usually the women, the people of color, just because if you're asking people, what did you think or rate your faculty, it introduces bias that they inherently have. And you were bringing that. Okay. So these were what we needed and the guiding principles. So what does it look like, the new evaluation process? So we're introducing the 4 levels now, not just satisfaction. And the instruments that we're using are post-program surveys, pre-program surveys to measure learning baseline. We're doing a lot of post-program debriefs with faculty where we include participants as well sometimes. We are doing participation quizzes or polling. It will depend on the program. These two will depend highly on the program, so they're specific for each program. And we're introducing the impact surveys, interviews, and the use of action plans to evaluate what happens with their learning. I'll talk specifically about this. So the impact survey is conducted 4 to 12 months. This depends on the program. Programs that have, I would say, more applicable skills, such as finance for non-finance professional, communications and leadership presence. There are skills that they are used every day. We go on a 4-month thing. But programs like our executive program that has more strategic foresight, strategic planning, you cannot do a strategic planning for a company in 4 months. So we look at it in a very long term and see what has happened or how they have improved their company after 12 months. Challenges that you can imagine, resistance to change. It was important for the Ivey Academy to have these processes to be part of the day-to-day activities. And a lot of people had to be involved in just executing that. There was resistance to change, specifically of the things that were being evaluated. A lot of people tend to protect. So this is my job, so how are you gonna be evaluating it now? Practical limitations, and it's mostly around how we're analyzing the data. Is one person analyzing. And I could talk a lot about how AI has helped me do that, but it's not the goal of the presentation. And then ensuring clarity and reliability. So we introduced a lot of new metrics in other slide, and ensuring that everybody understood what those metrics were and why we were using it and not misuse them. That was important. So these were the new elements that we are including now, and it paints a much richer picture than just, did you like your training? These are all the new things that we are evaluating. A lot of them we evaluated at the post-program point up to here, and then this is all in the impact point and the impact data that we are collecting. I won't go into a lot of details. These are the things that we expect to see, or when we ask them about their positive outcomes, we expect to see them in one of these categories. And like when you drop a pebble in water, the very center is where we expect to see most of the impact, right? Is the impact for the person. And then we want to be measuring or categorizing all those things that they are observing in their organizations and even beyond their organizations. I wanted to talk a bit about how we have reaped the benefits of this, because thanks to this new way of collecting data, we were able to present a case of the Quantum Shift program, which is our signature program for entrepreneurs. And we won an Excellence in Practice award from EFMD, thanks to the data that we are collecting. And that gave us the ability to tell the story. So the way forward, things that I'm still doing. Increasing the response rates, which is a challenge. Our currently is around 30% in the impact survey. The post-program survey is around 100%, that's fine. But the impact survey has very low rates of response. So we are working on that, on refining the surveys, strengthening our data analysis capability, integrating other collection methods like focus groups, like journaling, that will give us a better picture of what's happening in their organization, extending our evaluation to capture a broader impact, implementing that evaluation for custom programs, that's the programs with our clients, and sharing our methodologies like here. these are some takeaways for you. So I asked you to focus on a question. And these are other things that you can think about when you are thinking about evaluation. Do you have the data that you need to tell the story of our training, to tell how your training is good and great to your stakeholders? And what level of training evaluation are you currently reaching, and where would you like to go? And what new evaluation practices would you be introducing or improving upon based on what you heard today? So thank you so much. I did.
We have 5 minutes for questions. Let's take the questions.
You can connect with me on LinkedIn over there.
What were some of the other sources you looked at when you were coming up with these new criteria for your evaluation?
Okay, so I worked with the Kirkpatrick model. Already has a lot of that criteria, but I also took the course from ATD on evaluation, and there's a lot of valuable ideas that they give you of what to measure. And the important part was just picking what were the metrics that we wanted, because there's actually a lot that you can evaluate, but we wanted to focus on what will enable us to improve more, and what will give us the information that we wanted. Like, being picky about the data is something that I can't stress enough. Like, why, if you are including the question in a survey, what are you gonna do with the answer? So I thought that's kind of the process that we took, because there's a lot out there that you can evaluate. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I like the approach. My question is more in the direction, how do you bring the results back to the individual lecturer level? So, of course, for the overall program, you now have your impact, but in the end, a big part is each lecturer who's putting content and training into the program.
You mean the lecturers, like the faculty members who are teaching the program? Okay, so that's a very good question. Thank you. So one of the components that I mentioned, there was a post-program debrief. So in the post-program debrief, we do it after we have the results of the post-program survey. So at that point, the data that we have is the learning experience data, like how satisfaction level data. We have the information on the participants' expected outcomes, commitment to apply, and we have what is the other thing? Oh, we have the increase in confidence from the beginning to the end. So with that data, we conduct the debrief. And in the debrief, what we are doing is providing this information to the lecturer. They are there, and they also bring their perspective, because they are the ones who had the experience in the program, right? So there may be things that the survey didn't capture, and they also inform us about that. And we work with them to find ways to maybe improve on what the data said. So a perfect example would be, okay, so participants are talking about needing more support in this topic. So how can we help you? Can we develop alternative materials? Can we create a video to support this specific thing? So it's more to show them, here's how we can help you, and here are the things in which we can improve the program.
So, okay, so this is not a several-year program, it's more one course with one lecturer.
Yeah, it depends on the program. Some programs are led by only one faculty director. For example, our finance program is 3 days and is mostly only one facilitator. But there are programs like our Ivey leadership program where it's like 5 facilitators. They will have different sessions, different case studies. So it depends. It depends on the program and what.
But you do not separate the impact analysis on each of the partial topics.
No, not on each topic. No, we do it on the whole program. Yeah. Any others? What about online? Are we good online?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.